Okay, well, moving on now, I'm just going to quickly talk about a couple of grants that you may or may not be aware of, and then we have our final two presentations from Luke and from Rich. So I will share my screen. So what we always like to do at FCS is to talk to you about grants that you may or may not be aware of. One of the challenges of grant funding is the constant nature and the sort of newness of grants coming out all the time. As I mentioned, we do a free grants bulletin. We put grants on our website, but we also ourselves subscribe to grants online, which is a really good source of grant funding, which I can certainly recommend. And this is one that they were talking about today, which is the Youth Futures Foundation. I think it's very relevant for our current situation. It's very much about finding, funding and supporting activities to help 14 to 24-year-olds overcome barriers to work. And the grants themselves are quite significant. Two types: development grants and impact grants. The development grants range from 30 to 150,000 per year. They can run for 1 to 2 years, and it's a minimum of supporting 50 plus people per year into overcoming these barriers. And the same with the impact grants. And I think this is much more of applying knowledge that's been developed through the development grants and really making a difference to young people's lives. Not-for-profit, charity and statutory organisations can apply, as can partnerships of organisations. And to be an applicant, you must have a turnover of 100,000, not be in financial crisis. I think that would need to be looked at for some organisations in light of COVID and in terms of what that means. And you must have been operating for 3 years in the sector. They are looking for new approaches, but equally, certainly from the impact grants, they are happy to fund proven approaches. So that's the Youth Futures Foundation. I will just move on to the second opportunity, which is called Kickstarter. I'm sure many of you will have heard about this in the press. It's a big £2 billion fund. It's the government's big initiative to help young people that unfortunately will be made unemployed as a result of the pandemic back into employment, or potentially for those young people that haven't managed to start their careers yet. It's funding at 25 hours a week at minimum wage for 6 months. And you also get, for every person that you take on, £1,500 of additional funding per person, and that's to fund their training, their support, their equipment, so your overhead. So there is some additional funding there. The applicants themselves must be registered for universal credit, but there isn't a time frame on that, so they kind of just registered for universal credit. Initially there was discussion that they had to have been registered for a period of time, but that has been dropped. And we are anticipating these new roles to start autumn this year. And the purpose of this scheme is to move these young people into permanent employment, but it isn't a requirement. You know, it's really just about, perhaps for some young people, getting them some employment experience. If you are an employer that can take 30 or more placements, then you can do it directly and apply online. However, for most organisations that won't be taking that many, then you have to work through a representative organisation. And certainly we're lucky in South Yorkshire, we've got lots of representative organisations. So Opportunity Sheffield is part of a wider partnership with the Sheffield Chamber, Sheffield Hallam University, to manage this process. Rotherham and Barnsley Chamber and Doncaster Chamber are also offering similar support in their areas, and certainly when I spoke to Opportunity Sheffield recently, they said there is no cost to organisations using their services for that, and they have a job description template which individuals can fill out. So it is a really great opportunity, you know, for organisations that want to engage more with young people, and they have some opportunities, some work that needs doing, meaningful work that needs doing to take people on. So that's Kickstarter. It is on our website, on the FCS website. On our website, it also links you all to other organisations.